What's up, THS? I'm Mrs. Smith from the library. Our theme this week is Mental Health Matters, and these are my top three. My picks for this week bring awareness to issues of mental health. They do so with honesty, transparency, and from the perspective of teenagers. And who better to talk about things that concern teenagers than John Green? He's the author of Looking for Alaska and The Fault in Our Stars. But today I want to kick things off by telling you about his latest book. It's called Turtles All the Way Down. So to explain this book, I think I need to break it into two parts, and I want to start with the big picture. That is, a billionaire CEO gets caught up in some fraudulent dealings and disappears. And there is a $100,000 reward offered for information that leads to his arrest. So Aza, our main character, comes from a single parent home. And $100,000 would change her life, as it would ours as well, in a number of ways. But most importantly, it would allow her to start thinking seriously about college. And college tuition is something that just kind of seems out of reach for her and her mom at this point. Now, Aza's only 16. She's not a detective, but she actually has a good shot at cracking this case. She knows the CEO's son, Davis, from when they went to summer camp together when they were kids. So she reaches out to rekindle her friendship with Davis and hopefully get the scoop on his dad. So that's the big picture, but now I want to zoom in. What Aza really wants, even more than $100,000, is to be normal. Aza has severe anxiety and obsessive compulsive disorder, and so her daily life is interrupted by these intrusive thoughts that she calls spirals. Normal kids don't fixate on getting C. diff at lunch or contracting a bacterial infection from being at a cafeteria table. That's something that Aza deals with regularly. And because she wants so much to be normal, she decides that she's going to ignore her triggers and symptoms. She ultimately ends up lying about them to her mom and her therapist, which, as you know, is a problem. I loved this book, but there were two things in particular that I really enjoyed about it. Sometimes in young adult literature, there is a character who struggles with something and they are miraculously cured of their ailment or their depression or anxiety by either accomplishing some task like graduation or going to college, or they meet a boy and fall in love and boom, all their symptoms disappear. So that doesn't happen in this book. But another thing that does happen in this book is that somehow John Green manages to give us some insight into Aza's life after the book is over. And so the story doesn't necessarily end where it ends. I'm still not sure how he did it. It's really beautifully done. It's not too cheesy or sentimental. It's good. It's John Green. It's why he's got a ton of books down here in the library, and it's why I wanted to tell you today about Turtles All the Way Down. You all probably realize now that I really like nonfiction. So, of course, book number 2, I had to slide a nonfiction selection in. This is a collection of essays, letters, comics, some doodles, even like a couple lists of different actors, athletes, writers, and other celebrities who have chronicled their own personal experiences with mental illness. It was edited by Jensen, and it's called Don't Call Me Crazy. In Don't Call Me Crazy, the editor, Jensen, has collected a series of writings by different people who talk about the uniqueness of our brains and how the way that we think affects our health. Some of the writers have chosen to talk about body dysmorphia or anxiety and depression. Some of them have survived self-harm and suicide attempts. This book also includes writing about post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse, and eating disorders. I did not find it preachy at all. It's obviously not meant to be a diagnostic tool or replace professional help like seeing a therapist, but it is a good conversation starter, and in fact, that is how the book refers to itself. You all have heard me say over and over that reading is a great tool to develop empathy. And really, that's the goal as we move through this world together as humans. So, book number 2, Don't Call Me Crazy, collected by Jensen, is a great place to start for those of you who are curious about how the way we think affects the way that we live. Our last pick is one of my favorites from the Project Lit reading list from last year. I will be honest with you, I was a little intimidated by the size of this book at first, but don't let that psych you out. This is a beautiful, beautiful book, and as soon as I started reading, I was sucked in and realized that it was worth every word. It is the debut of author Emily X. R. Pan, and it's called The Astonishing Color of After. Lee Chen Sanders is a girl who uses color to express herself. She is an artist, so literally she uses color, but she also assigns colors to her emotions. And so, for instance, her best friend Axel knows that if she says things are purple, that means that she's feeling confused. And when we meet Lee at the beginning of this story, she is in Axel's basement and on the verge of her very first kiss. What we know that Lee doesn't know is that unfortunately at the same time, a tragedy is taking place in her home. And after living with chronic depression for decades, her mom takes her own life. And so Lee and her dad have to figure out how to move on with this critical piece of their family missing. For the Sanders family to move forward, they're going to have to revisit the past. And this book is a beautiful and poetic story about how the memory of Lee's mom leads her to Taiwan and back to discover the hard truths about her depression, some trauma that she went through, and secrets, both good and bad, that have been kept from her. The Astonishing Color of After gives us insight into the grieving process and how trauma affects not only the person who bears it, but the people around them who love that person too. This is a beautiful book, and it will probably break your heart, but it does so in such a pretty way that you almost don't mind. And it wraps up our list for mental health matters for this week. So typically in your emails, I put a content advisory or like a trigger warning about some serious content that are in the books that I talk about. And obviously all 3 of our books this week do some real heavy lifting on topics that are sometimes difficult and emotional to discuss. Right now, probably more than ever, it is critical that we are taking care of ourselves and looking out for the people around us. So as I end this video today, please let me remind you that even though we're not together here at THS, there are still adults in this building who care about you, adults who are trustworthy, and adults that you can reach out to talk about things that may be concerning you during this time. I hope it goes without saying that I am available for you if you'd like to talk, if you'd like to talk about a book, if you'd like to meet me in the South parking lot for curbside library services. You can go to our website and find that request form on the front page. Now is a great time to get a book before we go on a real break for Thanksgiving break. So I do encourage you to check out the website, look at Destiny Discover, and see if there's anything there that you would like to read. In the meantime, please take care of yourselves. I will be back later with some more book recommendations for you from our library. Take care. Bye-bye.